Okay, folks, good morning. Saturday, early edition. The final stretch of the mini Polish project. Good morning, Pierre. Bonjour. And what we've got left here is basing these guys right here. And man, this light is just too powerful. It washes everything out. Let's see if we can tinker with these guys here. There we go. First of all, let's take this off. Let's take some of this contrast off so you guys can see it kind of how I see it. Actually, that's not the contrast, it's the brightness. It's too bright. There we go. That's a little bit more accurate. Exposure level off. Okay, got it. Let's zoom in. And this is a more accurate representation of what I'm seeing there. So we've got 3 stands of knights, and of course they're going to go hang out with the stand of blades, of fast blades for this army. These are just options for allies for the Moldavians. Okay, and it's 4 stands into the later Polish army, which we can always go back at a later date and do them as well. And let's take a look at the guys on the other side. Oh, it helps if I got to do everything backwards on screen. It's really awkward. And these guys are a mixture of Falcon and Essex miniatures. So, Falcon one-piece castings and Essex miniatures. So, we're going to goop, as we like to call it, this morning. And then paint the goop. And then we can go work on some new people, also known as the Byzantines. We're going to be getting busy with Byzantines. And we're going to be on the Byzantine land probably for the rest of the year. Unless I have a change of heart or something. But we're probably going to do Byzantines the rest of the year, so. Good morning, Nordic. Okay, so your assignment today is wake up. The wake-up time today is 7:30 for the daughter. I know, I couldn't believe it last night when my wife told me that she needed to wake up at a certain time. So, hopefully she doesn't forget. So, how am I doing? I'm doing good. Well, I got a big surprise for you guys. So, I don't know if I talked about it, but the last video that I put up, yeah, it was the Valhalla one. We filmed it on Monday night, and we didn't even play the last battle. Mitch and I never played, which is a good thing because he would have gone down because my dice were on fire. So I was like, what army am I going to play? I said, well, I could play Anglo-Saxons. I don't have any of the armies that are enemies of the Vikings. Well, I have the Russians. I didn't want to play them because I didn't really want to deal with shooters. I was going to kind of drag the game out. And what else do I have that's an enemy of them? Anyways, I was like, let me fudge the Anglo-Saxons. Everybody likes the Anglo-Saxons, especially you guys in Britannia. You guys have a soft spot for that army. And so I was going to fudge it. But the thing is if they are on my to-do list. And at some point, I mean, they're way down it. I don't want them to get a bloody nose, and I don't want to get a bloody nose and then not want to build them because they have a bad record. So I'm like, well, let me go build the Rus. Well, the Rus went freaking 2-0, and if So now I've got a wanting to do the Rus Army. I know it's just in my head though. I'm not going to get around to them, but there I did look around to see who made good figures, and Forge and Battle makes them and all that stuff. But anyways, I love it how I interrupt myself to do something else. It's actually not what I wanted to talk about. But so the Valhalla video. So it's about 5 hours long, and it took forever. And I mean forever. By the time YouTube got a hold of it, probably about 10 a.m. the following morning, and they didn't have the high definition processed till almost 8 p.m. that day. So it took them forever to process. So I'm like, well, I don't know why it took. Maybe the processing takes. My videos aren't that different from each other. You know, they've got some music at the beginning. They've got a front page, and they've got like one transition. So I try to keep them as basic as I can, so that uploading, the compression and all that stuff doesn't take forever. And even with that, it took like 8 hours to do it. So I filmed the game last night. We did a series last night, and I edited it last night and uploaded it last night, or I should say, was it this morning? It was after midnight. I stayed up to do that and just left it uploading overnight. So I got like 4 hours and 15 minutes of sleep, something like that. And it's fully processed. So as soon as I get out of here, you guys will have that video that comes up. So it doesn't make any sense that, one day it takes 4 hours or so, 3.5 hours, and another day takes 9. And yeah, the video is a little shorter than 5 hours, but I don't know. So good news is you guys will have another video to check out over the weekend. That may be a tough one. I give you a warning at 7. Okay. Okay. Well, do what you can. So there will be another video shortly. Now, I could have uploaded it before I did this, but that just interrupts myself. So be on the lookout. And I think it's something that will interest most people. So I know the Valhalla videos took off. I guess people are... I don't know. One thing I've started doing, I've been tempting the devil lately. And I've been trying to use some artwork on the front page of my videos, and it looks like it's getting more people to click on it. I don't know if more people are watching it, but more people are clicking on it. So, if people aren't really interested in what I'm doing, that's cool. I just don't want somebody that's interested in what I'm doing, but they don't get to see it for whatever reason. So, okay, so we're going to use the rough gray pumice on this, and we're going to goop these 3 bases, put little rocks on them, a few, and then we will start on Byzantines. We'll have to go back and paint these guys, but let's start on Byzantines. You bought something yesterday you may be interested in. Got a Hex Encounter War game, Operation Barbarossa Army Group Center from GMT Games. So, I actually like those kind of games a lot. But I think that with the technology that we have these days, those are a prime candidate for a computer game. Just from the standpoint of being able to save it. One of the first war games I ever played was a game called Second Front. And I want to say it was by SSI, although I may have gotten that wrong. It was very basic. It had EGA graphics, and you could literally maneuver. It was like a hex map, but you couldn't see the hexes. But you could maneuver using a little number keypad. And I played it quite a bit, actually, in the early 90s. The whole screen was like, the ground color was like yellow with green for forest. And then when autumn hit, it would change, and when winter hit, that would change, and so you had some different seasons and stuff, and the ground movement was affected by that. But it was a core level simulation of Barbarossa, and I played it a lot. And I don't mind counter board games as long as the counter board game looks okay. So Not interested in playing something that looks like Catan or something ugly, or Third Reich. Oh, Rise Decline of the Third Reich. One of my gaming buddies that was like his favorite game, and I hate looking at that thing. And I don't like the type of gameplay it is. It's too strategic for my taste. I'm not interested in being Hitler. I don't want to play Hitler. So there was one other thing I was going to say. Sorry, I'm sleep deprived. I have not gotten a lot of sleep this week. Been cranking out too many videos. Actually, the issue is I have to stay up too late while the videos get uploaded so that it can process them. That's the problem. It's not really staying up for well, on Monday I did stay up too late, but it's the weekend, so I can take a nap if I need to. Got to mow the lawn today. It's going to be a cool day. It's 50 degrees now, so I haven't mowed since before Halloween. A very slow growing grass on purpose. You're not much of a video gamer. Hell, I can't stand to read PDFs and have a book in my hand. And have to have a book in your hand. The artwork on the maps is top notch for the game. Is the other one I got. Woods Battle of Shiloh. Good morning. There is a Civil War book. Now, if you guys know, I do not like the American Civil War. Not very many Civil Wars I do like. But I particularly do not like the American Civil War. But there is a board game. And I don't know what the name of it is. But it's for American Civil War, and the artwork is very unique and almost makes me want to play it. I'm not opposed to counter board games, but, I'm not going to have anybody to play them with. I mean, I guess I could talk Mitch into playing one, but I just don't want to read the rules. So having a counter board game on the computer forces you to not be able to play it incorrectly. Like you try to make a move, and it doesn't let you because you tried to move too far, So I don't know that I would call it a computer game because there's not any live movement. It's not real time or anything like that. But anyhow, one of the goals I would like to do, and I hate using the word goals, and I really hate this phrase mission statement. It's just a bunch of malarkey hooey. Oh, one thing, this is what I wanted to mention to you guys. So I glued these guys off screen, and one of the issues I have with Essex, the biggest issue I have with Essex that I didn't actually know that I had an issue with them until I did this, is the bases on the horses are minusculely small. They're very, very small, and they were a pain in the ass to balance on here. So I had to glue it several times. All the horses that are Essex, they won't stand on their own because they have either a very small footprint in the case of this guy right here, or these other ones have a very long footprint, but they teeter because they have more weight on one side because of this big lance. So I had a hell of a time gluing, not a hell of a time, but it took multiple tries. So there's my Essex gripe. Other than that, I don't have a problem with them. I use everybody's stuff. But the whole point was to use these Falcon figures that very few people have seen, and they don't look very impressive. And it's nice to give them a little bit of glory for whoever the sculptor was, especially since they're out of production. And that was the other determining factor why I decided to do the Byzantines next, because the Byzantines are going to have a fair amount. We'll just throw half in there because it's about half. Half the army is going to be Elaine Toulet. And so you're going to see some of those figures used in that army. And they match up really well, size-wise, with Old Glory. And, can't wait to show those guys to you. I did an unboxing on that army about 2 years ago when I got it. So, but one of my goals, one of the thing, how about one of the things I'd like to do at some point? There we go. It seems a little bit more, less corporate-y. Is there's a one of my the second trip I ever took to Historicon. There's a big campaign game that the guys put on, and it was a Fall of Rome campaign. And we're all on one table. That's the entire map. So the table measures maybe 8 feet by 12 or something like that. It is big. Maybe memory is wrong and it was only 6 by 8 or something like that. But regardless, it was a big table. And we had about a dozen players, and everybody had a different country, or as they like to say these days, a faction. There was 3 Roman players. I believe 2 were west and 1 was east. And the other 9 or so players were all barbarians. And the map extended basically from, it was stylized, but it was a Rome to Constantinople kind of thing. And there was a couple towns and everything on there, but it was stylized. So there was only 5 towns or something. And each person played somebody different. I got handed one of the Western Roman guys, a guy that kind of like Stilicho or Aetius or somebody like that, because it was around 400 AD when this is supposedly taking place. And there was other players, so you had one guy that played the Franks, and somebody that played the Huns, and somebody that played the Ostrogoths, another guy that played the Visigoths, and all this kind of stuff. And they came off the edge of the board, basically, from each one of the directions. So if you imagine this, a big board, and you've got from one corner, different people are coming, and the Romans are already on the board. And everybody had different objectives, like they had to, they got a gold coin. We had all these plastic gold coins that would go around, and you could bribe people, and just really a loose kind of, almost kind of like a Big Pigs Wars game where everybody has different objectives of what they're supposed to do. And it was a blast. And I would like to do something like that in the future. Obviously using DBA 3.0, not 2.2, because this was back in the 2.2 days. So I would like to do some barbarian armies. I have one, the Ostrogoths. And I wouldn't mind having more. Franks and crummy warband armies. You know how much I love warbands. So I would like to do that at some point in the next 5 years or so. So to be continued. But I'm really enjoying, I personally am really enjoying the scenario type games more than the one-offs, more than like the Valhalla thing, the theme stuff. I'm enjoying the, let's minimize this. Oh, we have a frozen screen, don't we? No, maybe we don't. I don't know. And I don't know why the hell this is getting all these skip things. That's the damn drones at it again. Had a great day at the club today playing DBMM, took on Middle Imperial Romans with early Persians. Kind of games that can be played solo very well. I don't have war game pals right now, so I play things solo. You own over 250 hex and counter games about the 70s and 80s. Haven't played them much recently because it's too much effort to learn a different set of rules every time. I'm right with you there, Ian. I do not want to play the game wrong. So, I actually did a campaign for the Mediterranean Seas in DVA back in the day. It was quite fun. Yeah, I don't really want a game with people I'm never going to meet. That there's no honor system. Like I in the last week, they released a new game for the Oculus. I got one of those things, and it had a World War One flight simulator game. And the same people who made that made a World War Two Pacific one. So I've been playing that some over the last week, and it's got chat. It's got a chat ability. It's not on the computer. It's on the the viewer, the ViewMaster type thing, the Oculus, and it works really well. I mean, it works really, really well. And I'll tell you what, if you're motion sickness, I'm obviously not a motion sickness person because I would have thrown up big time, but it doesn't affect me, fortunately. But anyways, it's got a chat feature where you can chat with people, and some of the folks are okay. But then the one thing that surprises me is that, it's a World War II game. I'm a World War II nut, not necessarily the Pacific. Definitely not the Pacific, but I played the old flight simulator games, the Aces over, what was it called? Is it Aces over the Pacific? That may have been, came out in the early 90s, and Aces over Europe and all that kind of stuff, and played all those games. But I played those historical flight simulator games, but I was already a World War II nut, so I know about the real planes. And the questions that these people were asking, it's like, unlike you folks, you guys know history, right? I mean, you may not know every history, but you have an interest in learning about the period and the whatever. But these people that just play video games, they're just playing it because it's a video game, not necessarily because they know the difference between a wildcat and a hellcat. And it kind of dawned on me that's like, man, this is kind of not, these aren't my people. These aren't my people. So, anyhow, some folks were okay, and some folks didn't know what the hell they were talking about. So, but I don't have a particularly great interest in interacting with folks that I'm never going to meet or that aren't history nuts in the thing. I want to take part in history, so that's why I play stuff like that. And it's really cool, I just assumed somebody that was playing a World War II game was a World War II fan, but that's not the case necessarily. It's just a video game to them. It would be, I guess, like if I played that Battletech game. I'm not a science fiction person. I just happen to like that game. Anyhow, neat little side note there, but I'm going to need to get something smaller to push this stuff in. So, we're going to go to this guy here. Green history claims I know history. Hands down, best fighter plane is the Spitfire. Well, certainly one of the prettiest ones. There's no doubt about it. Not included in the game. It's just the Pacific. It's actually a lot better than the World War I game. The World War I game was extremely annoying because they gave you maybe 6 different planes for each side for the Entente. I hate calling it that. It should just be the Allies. But anyways, the Entente and the Central Powers each had about 5 to 6 different planes. The game's been out for a couple of years now. The World War I in particular. But they've never released any Spads or Newports or they missed a lot of stuff. And so it seems very incomplete to me. Like you can't play any of the French planes, and like there's nothing better than to, would be nothing better than to fly a French plane and mock people. Because you don't get a chance to play the French very often. It's not that I have a thing for or against the French, but I like to do things that you normally don't get a chance to do. You don't get a chance to play the French much. So, could make some silly French voice and mock people while you're flying around. That sounds like a good time to me. Yes, you would sound like the Frenchman at the castle. Why do you ask? The Frenchman, the Frenchman at the top of the castle, then Monty Python and the Holy Grail. But the World War II one is more complete. The World War II one only has 3 Japanese planes. They got the Zero, the Oscar, or the Hayabusa, and the Frank. I get the Frank and the George mixed up. I know one's a Navy one, one's an Army one. I believe it's the Frank. And the U.S., they have the Wildcat, they have the Hellcat, the Corsair, the P-51, the P-47, the P-38, and I think the one that I'm missing that I haven't mentioned is a plane that I really wanted to play because it's not very good in most games. It gets ignored, and it was the first model I ever built as a kid. It was a snap type kit, and it was the P-40 with the shark's mouth. And I know it's not the best freaking plane in the world, but it's cool to be able to play the first model that you build. I don't know. I've always had a soft spot for that plane. And yeah, it's the shark mouth because it looks like ass without the shark mouth on it. Okay. The only way that one looks better is when the British used it in North Africa because they've got the roundel and the shark's mouth on it and the desert camo. Triple kudos for that one. I like the U.S. plane markings early war that have a little red dot in the center of the star. I think it looks a lot better. Well, I understand why they changed it, but I don't care. From a modeling standpoint, I like the little red star in the middle of it. But that's only up to like Coral Sea. After Coral Sea, they got rid of that. So Coral Sea is what? April 1942. So after April 1942, they ditched that. These guys are flying around and like, oh, I'm flying a Hellcat. It's the best plane. Well, the Hellcat's probably the best plane in the game all around, but it is I told somebody, I said, it's like a 57 Chevy, okay? It's a classic airplane, but in my opinion, ugly as shit, I do not like the look of the Hellcat. The Hellcat is the anti-Spitfire. Spitfire is beautiful. Hellcat is just ugly as snot. And the paint schemes they had for the Hellcat are even uglier. That dark blue gloss. But, of course, these guys are just playing. They don't give a shit what they look like or the history or anything. They just, oh, this is the best one. Damn gamers. No P-39, unfortunately. A cool plane. Don't care if it was a piece of shit or not. I thought it was a cool plane. I remember in the old game, Aces of the Pacific, you had, 30 rounds of 37 millimeter. You hit somebody with one of those, game over. Game over, 37 millimeter cannon that fires through the propeller shaft. That's pretty cool. I think it fires through the propeller shaft. Russians loved them. Russians are weird. They like the wrong stuff. I don't mean the modern Russians. I'm talking about the World War II Russians. What was their favorite Lend-Lease tank? The Valentine. It was the shittiest one that they got. Okay. I think we are done with that. Those needles are so handy to get in between stuff. All right. Where were we here? All right. Let me look at comments before I dive my ass back in. Hell, it's a pretty good fighter for the Pacific. Tough as nails. I have a grail, and no, you cannot see it. We've already got one. It's very nice. I've got the best kill in IL-2 Sturmovik. I never played. I never played that game because it arrived on the scene after my computer didn't um, didn't work anymore. This new one is this is only a year and a half old, but I went like a 8-year gap where I didn't play computer games. So I think I have a version of it on one of the Xboxes, and I played it some. But the problem with playing against the computer on those is the computer knows. The computer identifies you immediately as friend or foe. Like it knows when you're flying around and it has its other planes that you are the enemy. And you don't, unless you play with a HUD. But then you're playing with a HUD and identifying things, and that's hokey. So the only solution is to play with other people, and I don't really want to play deathmatch where it's one plane for each self. So I don't mind playing the team stuff, but I played some of that this week and it was okay. But when you're playing without the HUD, and you're playing against a computer, even with in a co-op thing, it's so hard to ID the other planes. But the computer has an unfair advantage because it knows that your plane is one it's supposed to shoot down. And when you're flying around, you're like, is that an allied one? Is that a friendly one, or is that an enemy one? So, and it's just a matter of the silhouettes moving so fast. As I recognize the silhouette immediately from every plane. But anyhow, that's done. We can't forget to do the rocks to put them in there. Let's do the next one. So that's the problem with the flight simulators. Now, if you've ever played a flight simulator on the Oculus, I'm never playing on the computer again, ever, because just being able to look around is amazing. It feels the fact that you've got your display of what's in front of your guns, but then you can tilt your head up and see what's not within the view of your guns yet, but is coming up, and it makes a huge difference. A huge difference. You get the best kill in Aleutian Sturmovik, flying a Spitfire during the Battle of Britain. I guess they make a mod for that. And broke left on an ME-109 and fired a burst that lit up the cockpit, sniping the pilot. Best kill ever. Yeah, that'd be a Spitfire Mark 1. Yeah. Do the German planes have swastikas in that? Or did they take those out of them? German stuff just looks so cool. I mean, they're rat bastards, but their stuff looks so cool. The other model, one of my favorite planes of all time, is the Stuka. And yeah, they used them for all kinds of nefarious purposes, but it's still a cool looking plane. I always liked those as a kid. And I think that's why German stuff is popular, German models and stuff like that. I mean, everybody, you play World War II, I don't know anybody, actually I know one person, that doesn't want to play Germans. But I play everybody, but I'm just saying the German stuff looks cool, regardless of how nefarious those people were, or that regime was. Let's put it that way. But they had cool looking stuff. But they're not as cool as manufacturers make them out to be. And what I mean by that is you'll go and look at whether it's something you're modeling of tanks, and they make every single German thing, and some other people that have common vehicles that aren't made. Well, I mean, you got to make everybody's stuff, okay? And, they even the cool tanks need something to fight. What was that game? Not Aces over Europe. Oh, shit. It was a Microprose game, and I had it in the early 2000s for my computer. And my computer at the time, it was a Gateway. And we had a Gateway store in Jacksonville. And I traveled to the Gateway store because I wanted to physically put hands on what it was. And it came with Boston whatever speakers. It came with a speaker, and it was a box. It was a box that was maybe 9 by 9 cube, maybe 9 by 12 in inches cube, that sat on the bottom of the on the bottom of the. I had it down here at the bottom by my feet, and when you cranked up some of those planes, it pumped out so much sound that it would blow the hairs on your legs. You could feel the freaking wind from the thing. Oh man, what was the name of that game? It was a cool game. It looked a little retro looking, but that was, you could do. Could you play bombers in that? I don't remember if you could play bombers, but they had a good selection of planes too. But that was back when you couldn't play the Russian front, because that was before IL-2. You couldn't play the Russian front. I think you could do Battle of Britain with that one as well. I don't know what it was called. I don't recall if I do or not. Amusing thing was the computer tried to outturn a Spitfire 109, which is how I got that kill. Well, in real life, it depends on the pilot. I mean, I'm sure there's some 109 pilots that could outturn a Spitfire, because the Spitfire guy didn't know how to get everything out of his plane, and the 109 did. The first game, man, I would play the living hell out of that game in the early '90s. I think it was just called Battle of Britain, and it was so unrealistic. You couldn't tell that a Spitfire turned faster than a 109. You just couldn't tell by playing it. It just didn't seem like it was an issue. So, do you want lots of machine guns? You play the Spitfire or the Hurricane. Do you want some machine guns and a 20 millimeter cannon? You play the 109. Or the 110, I guess. That was was that the Dynamics game? I don't remember. Yeah, I've played a fair number of them in the early 2000s. And then after a while, it's just more of the same thing. It's more of the... And they had one flight simulator that one company made, and it was only over Battle of the Bulge. So, like, the Germans only had a 109G, a Focke-Wulf-A, and a 262. And the Allies had a P-47, a Spitfire, and a P-51. I don't remember what it was called, but it was very limited. That one had really good graphics when it came out, but very, very limited. A very limited venue. Secret weapons of the Luftwaffe. Swaddle, as they used to call it. actually may have come out in the 80s, now that I think about it. I think it did. I never had a Commodore. I always wanted a Commodore as a kid, never got one, but my dad always had PC clones that he had for work, so I was able to play a few games on PC clones. Not that he was a gamer, but at least I had access to that stuff. Old 286 and stuff like that. I'd like to play a game that gets me in the cockpit of a Stuka dive bomber. If everything with a powers is equal, the Spitfire can outturn an ME-109 every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Yeah. Yeah, I remember the Microsoft Combat Flight Simulator. When that one came out, everybody wanted a dogfight, so everybody was in a Hurricane because it could turn the tightest. The cool Hurricane was that one they used in the desert with the... Did it have 20s under the wing, or did it have something bigger than 20s? It may have had 2-pounders or something like that. So that predated old Rudel's Stuka with a pair of 37s underneath that he used on the Eastern Front. There was a tank buster, so to speak, version that the Hurricane used. I want to say it's the 2C. I don't remember, though. I honestly don't. Airplanes is one of those things that I never really read with as much detail as I did anything else, because unless I was playing a flight simulator, I wasn't playing any games that were airplane related. You know, I was playing naval miniatures games, know a lot about naval history. That's how I learn. I participate, so to speak, in, you know, my own way. And then, you know, it's fascinating to learn more about it. And land combat, well, there's lots of land combat stuff. But airplane stuff is kind of a sideshow. Not in real life, but just from a gaming aspect. You know, because it's hard to get that right. Have you ever played Wings of Glory World War One and the World War II version? I've never played... No, I played the Wings of War, so the predecessor to Wings of Glory, which I think is the same game. I have the World War One game, and I have every expansion of it. And I've played it quite a bit. The World War II one I have not played. It didn't seem to be very popular. I don't have a problem playing it. I just don't know anybody who's played it. I wouldn't mind trying it. You know, it's actually an okay game, even without miniatures. The cards are beautiful. The artwork is beautiful. I don't have to have physical miniatures. I just like physical miniatures because it's something for me to collect and something for me to paint and be creative about. And since I'm into painting and can paint okay, I don't mind doing it, you know, but I don't want to build models anymore and just have something that just sits there and doesn't do anything. But I'm okay with counter stuff, as long as the counters look good. And I'll be honest with you, there's some games that I look at the counters and I'm like, that is just fascinating. There's a couple of games like that I've just been like, man, I want to play this game just because the counters are so beautiful. And there aren't that many, but there are some. I just don't want to read the rules. I don't want to read the rules and interpret them and get them wrong, and, you know. Just not my idea of a good time. You know, I'm gaming now when I'm either sleep deprived or after a day at work. So the last thing, I want to have fun. I don't want to sit here and racked my brain. So one of my favorite computer games of all time. It's available on computer. It's available on Xbox, and it's kind of a basic game, but it has a lot of depth. I think is a series made by a company called Shenandoah Studios, who are defunct now, but they went defunct not that long ago, and they made a series of 3 games. One of them, which is not available anymore, I think it was just called Desert Fox, and the other one is called Battle of the Bulge, and the other one is Drive on Moscow, I believe is what it's called. I could have the name of that one wrong. I can never for the life of me remember what it is. But one of them is obviously Battle of the Bulge. And it's an area movement game, and it's like a counter game. And the counters look cute, and I don't mean by saying that makes them look childish. I think it's done extremely well. And it's almost like DBA in that it's kind of a simple game in concept, but there's a lot of options of what you can do, and they're wonderful. So if you haven't checked them out and you like each counter is a division, and it's area movement, and I think the maps look nice. The Desert Fox one is not available anymore. It was only made for the iPad, and it did not get converted for the 64-bit apocalypse. So I had the misfortune of buying it and then doing an iPad update, and never got to play it more than maybe 30 minutes. So I never got to play that one. Supposedly it's the weakest of the 3, but I mean, it had Italians in it. It was an El Alamein, so never got a chance to play that. But I've played the Battle of the Bulge one and the Drive on Moscow a lot, and that got me through doing computer games while I didn't have a computer on the console, because it's kind of a computer type game, not a console type game, and I highly recommend those. And they're extremely cheap. I think you can get them both for, I think they're like $10 each or something like that. I think they ran a special where both of them were $10 there. If you run one of them Steam sales or something like that. I don't have them on the PC. I have them on the Xbox. And if you ever played an Xbox and you know how those achievements work, it's one of those games where I think I've got all the achievements on it. And those are hard to do because some achievement things are just, you got to play something a lot. So if you have a game and if you've got all the achievements on it, you're a loser and need to get a life. You played the game too long, and that was the case for that one. I did play it a lot. The really cool thing about that game, which makes it unique, is you basically get a turn, and then your opponent gets a turn. You get a turn, your opponent gets a turn, but you don't know how much time goes by between the first move and the next one. So you have a 24-hour day cycle, and everything will reset after a day. So you can move a unit, and 3 hours could go by, or maybe only 15 minutes go by before somebody gets another move. So you really need to prioritize what you do with what. So it's kind of like pips. That's a really cool appeal to the game. I recommend them. Maybe there's a demo you can play or whatever, but that's probably, if somebody says, hey, could recommend a computer game, I would recommend those because it's very accessible to people that don't have a lot of time, and it's available on lots of different platforms. It's not like, oh, this is only a console game, or it's only available for PC. Be conducting my own drive on Moscow once that counter game I ordered gets here. Looking forward to playing it. Yeah, I like the Russian front stuff. For multiple reasons. Actually, for tons of reasons. It's, it's the big one. It's baddie versus baddie. It is just a really good I really like that venue. I like the Eastern Front a lot. Do I like it more than the desert? Yeah, I like it more than the desert. The Eastern Front's my favorite World War II venue for sure. Batty versus Batty. Okay. Last one. Almost 7. In a perfect world, I won't start the Byzantines until I go wake up my daughter. That'll be a good time period to switch between the two. But growing up, a lot of people weren't interested in playing Eastern Front because it didn't have Americans in it. There are people like that they can't get into something unless their own people are fighting. I'm definitely not one of those people. Well, my people weren't here yet, for starters. My clan was not in this country at that time. So if that's a part of the interest and appeal for some people, well, that one doesn't apply to me. So. But I generally do not like to play Americans. Just because I find it kind of boring. I'm already one of those, so I don't get a chance to role play something else. Man, what was that playing game called? Air War something? I don't know. It was a Microprose game when Microprose was still around. That had a really good variety of aircraft you could fly. Really good. You could fly Typhoons. I think you could fly Typhoons. I'm pretty sure you could fly Typhoons. And maybe even Tempests. Mosquitoes. Multiple versions of Spitfires. more liquids. I will be right back. I'm not even going to pause the screen. We're just going to knock out the mic here and be right back in a moment. I remember the name of the games. I walked away, that Microprose game. European Air War. You love the D-Day camouflage of the Typhoons. I like Normandy stripes. I do. I think they look beautiful. I think they enhance every plane that has them. Every single plane with Normandy stripes looks better. Unlike those damn racing stripes that people put on Mustangs and Challengers and stuff on cars. I think those look stupid. But hey, nobody asked me. You can do whatever you want with your car. But on the planes, Normandy invasion stripes, excellent. Superb. They look good on C-47s. They look good on P-51s. Everything. What a great idea. Yeah. Those late war Spitfires, those Mark 14s. What a beautiful plane. What an absolutely beautiful plane. With beautiful camouflage, too. And I'll be honest with you. Some of those late war Russians, I want to say it's the Yak 9. I could be wrong on which Yak it is. Those had some really pretty camouflage, too. Got light blue and stuff. Not that I've flown any of those. Actually, there was a computer game that came out. It was one of those massive computer player things, and I don't remember what it's called now. That it came out a while ago, and that one you could play Russian planes. I forget which one it is. And no, it's not the one that's available now that everybody that's all the war. It's not War Thunder. It was something else, and you could play Russians in that one. But it wasn't until actually recently that I realized how well armed the U.S. planes were. Because the U.S. planes, maybe the Brewster Buffalo wasn't the case. Brewster Buffalo's American, right? Yeah. All the U.S. planes had 50 caliber machine guns. And whether it was however many they had, they all had 50s. And other people, most of their machine guns are, under 8mm. I mean, that's significant. That's significant having a round that's 50% bigger. So, and you got a plane like the Oscar, and it's just a piece of shit. I mean, I don't care how maneuverable it is. It's got two 7.7mm machine guns in it. That's pretty shitty. And there's no plane that it typically fought that has less than, well, the P-40 has 650s, and the Oscar has two 7.7s. So that is extremely, oh, plus it's has no protection at all. So yeah, it's like freaking origami. It's like flying origami. I remember playing Aces Over the Pacific, and you start off one of the campaigns. You start off as the Japanese campaign. You start in Southeast Asia as an army pilot, or you can. One of the things you get assigned to this group, and you get even worse. You're playing that one, the plane you start, you end up getting an Oscar. It's an upgrade because the plane you start with, I believe, is called a Nate, and it is fixed landing gear. It's like a shitty looking Stuka with fixed landing gear and two machine guns. Just garbage. Garbage to look at. And then you fight a little bit longer and you get Oscars. And that Oscar, I believe, it had 150 caliber machine gun and it had 12.7 and maybe two 7.7s. And I think that game had ammo for all the weapons, so you just couldn't shoot everything you wanted to. This one I'm playing on the Oculus, you have limited for the cannon, but the machine guns you have unlimited. You can only fire it for a certain amount of time, and they heat up and you have to stop. But it actually works. It's not like you're shooting that much, but I haven't played freaking Aces Over the Pacific in freaking over 20 years, and it's amazing the details you play. So then you end up going to New Guinea or something like that, and you get the Tonys. And obviously I like the Tonys for multiple reasons, but I think the Tonys had 250 caliber machine guns in them. But that's it. You're fighting guys that have it might have had some 7.7s. I call that one the shitty Messerschmitt because it's a inline engine that it's Messerschmitt looking. It looks like one of those Mach-E 202s. I believe that's the version of the Mach-E that it is. But anyhow, it's Messerschmitt inline looking thing, but I like them for obvious reasons. You end up fighting P-38s and stuff like that over New Guinea, if I remember correctly, in that campaign. I don't think I played it long enough or survived long enough to get into the super planes at the end. The Franks and the Georges and is there a Jake? There's three of them that are really late war Japanese. This one is really fat. The Frank and the George are kind of the same looking. They're P-47-ish to a degree. There's one that's really, really fat. I want to say that's the Jake. I could be wrong. I don't practice this stuff. I don't remember this stuff. 50 cal is a wrecking ball of MG round. It is. Absolutely. Okay, you gotta leave. Yeah. Your grandfather was too old for military service in World War II. He was a skilled worker in the motor trade, and his contribution to the war effort was making engine calendars for the Spitfires. Good. I'm glad he was around. What a beautiful aircraft. What an absolutely beautiful aircraft. And I really like British aircraft. I mean, I like the Roundel. I think that I think everything works. Everything works on it. They had good camouflage schemes. They were good aircraft. They were armed well. The symbols that they had on stuff worked. Why couldn't they have the Roundel on the top of the British vehicles in Northwest Europe? They had to go with that shitty ass star. I've talked about that round and round. I would never put white stars on the top of my British vehicles in Northwest Europe. I'm just not going to do it. That doesn't seem right. I don't care if they really did it. It doesn't. It's not right. It's not right. So what do you think? You think the Germans will learn their lesson? 0-2, no more. Let's hope not. Let's hope not. Let's hope there's not any more wars where it's that close a call. I don't know. And I have listened to a few. I was big into World War II before the Russians stopped being the Soviet Union. Okay. I almost never call them the Soviet Union. It's always the Russians. But before all their archives opened. So after like 1990, 91, wasn't into World War II like I used to be. But since then, there's a lot of stuff on YouTube that makes you kind of question the narrative that we knew growing up. And what I mean by the narrative meaning that it was a close run thing. At least in Europe. I'm not going to say the Pacific because once the US production gets underway, the Japanese are screwed. Because not only they're being outproduced and outpopulated, but the Japanese sometimes don't care if they survive the next battle. So that doesn't really work really well in retrospect as far as trying to win a war. But at least in Europe, I was always, or anybody my age, was always taught that it was a close run thing. And you look at these revisionist programs. I don't know if revisionist. How about modern knowledge? And it's almost kind of like, oh well, yeah, it was the Axis were going to lose no matter what, and it was like, that's not what we were taught. So I wonder if in another 50 years there'll be yet another train of thought of how it really was. I mean, but anyhow, getting back to, let's hope we don't have another close run thing like that. I still call it a close run thing. Or here's an interesting question. What do you think was a closer run thing? The first one or the second one? Let's clean the crap out of this thing. But there's just so much information out there on that stuff, and now I got I don't know if any of you Brits are listening right now. Our cousins. Not necessarily my cousins, but I watched Apocalypto. a couple months ago. So I'm like, I'm watching it, and I've read one book specifically dedicated to that, and I think, as I mentioned before, I think that those civilizations were some of the worst on Earth, if not the worst on Earth. Period. Even worse than the Third Reich, in a different way, but it's different when you've got, kind of on the same level. It's different when you're a totalitarian regime that goes and conquers and goes and attacks other countries. It's very different when you do all that and you're killing your own people for whatever reason, whether it's human sacrifice or gas chamber. So yeah, I don't think that the pre-Columbian folks are very nice. Not that my ancestors that came and sneezed on them were nice folks. They weren't. But anyway, so I go in and I do this research I'm like, let me do a search on the internet of worst civilizations in history. And I was flabbergasted. And of course, not everything you hear on the internet is true. As a matter of fact, most of what you hear on the internet is not true. But I was flabbergasted to see one nation that came up routinely over and over again in the top 10 worst civilizations ever. And that was the British Empire, which I completely disagree with. I completely disagree with that assessment. And I'm like, I couldn't believe that was one of them. So maybe I'll have to look into that more, but it's going to take me a long time. It's going to take a lot of reading for me to convince me of the fact that that's one of them. Damn woke bastards. British Empire, one of the top 10 worst civilizations ever. Come on, I mean, every empire has done bad stuff, or poor decisions, or not thinking about the natives. But top 10, come on, not even close. Not even close. I'd say not even top 50. Probably a lot lower than that. I'd say my ancestors are probably worse than the British Empire. Maybe not by a lot, and they're not top 10. I don't know. I guess I don't make a very good woke person. Surprise. That's crazy. That's one of the craziest things I ever heard. Okay. Oh well, I brought up something controversial when there was nobody listening. Damn it. It's not controversial. I'm willing to look at things from both sides and change my opinions based on getting new information. I'm willing to look at things from another side, except from the communist side. Those people suck. Always. We're not going to talk about Nazis because everybody knows they suck. Nobody likes them. They're fancy dressers, but other than that, they suck at everything else. It's popular to pick the British Empire. But why? I mean, yes, all our ancestors did stuff that, Dirk, you're Dutch, right? Your background is Dutch. They did horrible stuff too. It's just, you got to judge people by the time, sign of the times that it happened in. I couldn't believe that. I couldn't. I mean, it's one of the most insane things I've ever read. Now, this is just people on the internet trying to push an agenda. Oh well. I'm old school, what can I say? But I'm willing to look at other things, assuming that what I'm reading is fair. Because that's the other thing is you got a lot of stuff that's, oh man, it's obvious that I was wrong. Well, you're looking at something that's not, accurate. Which is why I'm very skeptical to look at anything news related because we're being manipulated. And, I don't want to listen to news that tells me what I want to hear. I just want the news. Well, we don't have that anymore. Well, I've tuned out. I mean, there's some really interesting videos. Like, there's a video that came out this last week, and I'm not looking for them. They just come up on my feed of this. And I was talking to Mitch about this last night. This supposedly Ukrainian tank that takes out a whole convoy. And the people that edited this video did a really good job in that they put the little flag over who's on what vehicle, so you could kind of tell how it looks like a game of Close Combat, that computer game Close Combat, of who's on who's where. But I don't even want to watch it because I'm like, is this really what's going on? I'm skeptical of the whole thing. It doesn't mean I'm pro-Russian. I've never been pro-Russian. Even in World War II, I'm not pro-Russian. It doesn't mean the other guys are the good guys either. Just, I'm not falling for that one. But, we're only getting part of the information. There's a guy, if you're into tanks, and you'll know who this guy is. His guy's name's The Chieftain, and he did a really good video a couple of weeks ago about, the information that we're getting and how we're only getting it from one side. And it doesn't matter that, obviously if we were getting Russian sources, we know those are going to be manipulated, right? But at least it's just like when you're looking at stuff about World War II stuff. Once the Russian archives are open, at least it gives you another perspective to kind of cross-check what's going on. Even though it's going to be skewed, because a lot of those Russian commanders in the Second World War, they had to kind of downplay what happened so that, they didn't get lynched or worse. But it does give you another perspective to cross-check everything instead of just taking whatever the German generals wrote and taking their word for it because they're our allies in the next war. So... I just want to get to, the truth. It's kind of like politics. I don't really care about politics at all because, regardless of who you think is the best person out there, they're fooling you. And, some of us just don't want to get to the truth and are anti-corruption, regardless of what side the corruption is on. So... agnostic when it comes to news and stuff. But too many people want to hear what they want. Oh, my side's going to win, so my side's winning, or is this channel favors my political viewpoint, so let me watch these news. And I just don't I don't buy into that. It's I don't buy into it. But I think I'm I don't know. Am I the exception? I don't know. Okay, that's enough rocks for these guys. Got to make sure the edges are smooth. There's nothing worse. Well, there's worse things, but I like my stands touching, being able to push up against the other one, because that happens all the time. It's a pain in the ass when that doesn't happen. Okay, stuff's setting pretty quick. I better get a move on. Anyhow. Talk about controversial stuff on here, but you got to keep an open mind to it. You can't just be like, oh, well, this is just the way it is. Ooh, this is hardening fast. So I think this basing material. Well, first of all, I mentioned this before. I like it better than the other one that I was forced to replace it with. It was not intentionally that I had to replace it, but I did have to do that because it was being discontinued for whatever reason. Again, I'm not sure if the reasons I was told were accurate, that it was not a sustainable product. It seems kind of a bit horseshitish to me, considering this isn't taking up a big footprint of the earth. But for whatever reason, it's not available, the other one, anymore. And I like this Vallejo one actually better. It's a little bit rockier. It's more to scale, so to speak. But I didn't voluntarily do the switch. I had to switch because they didn't make the other material anymore. But anyhow, it does seem to dry a tiny bit faster, which I think that's a good thing. It dries a little faster than the other one. The other one's a little bit more like white glue than this one. Elmer's, as I like to call it. I guess that brand doesn't go around the world. As everywhere else calls it PVA. I remember the first time I heard PVA, I'm like, what? What the hell is that? What the hell's PVA? Oh, it's white glue. Oh, why don't you just call it that? Just call it white glue, you know? And it's almost like it's too dry here now. Man, it didn't take that long to do this. All right. I'm gonna do something I've never had to do before. Sealed for your protection. What, so it doesn't fly in my mouth? You ever notice when everything starts having all these warning symbols, all these warning signs on them, people started getting dumber? Maybe we're just protecting the wrong people. We'd been better off if something, you just, hey, let's eat this. Oh, good. Well, that dumbass isn't going to be around anymore to have kids. Let's put a warning label on a shotgun. It's a freaking shotgun, dude. You're going to die. Saving all the wrong people. Here we go. Put a little skim coat in a couple different places. Just a little sidetrack, nothing big. No big deal. More problems to fix on the weekend. Let's put a little bit over this side, put these two rocks in, and I think we're good with this. We can start playing with some Byzantines. Yippee! Actually, we can go wake up the daughter. The timing will be perfect. And then we can mess with some Byzantines. She always has something on the weekends, seems like. Well, I do too. It's called hanging out with you guys. Oh, please don't be a cloudy day. I don't do well with that. Okay. We're good with this. We're good with this. All right. I will be right back. Well, I got 4 minutes. She'll be upset. You got me up too early. Wake your own damn self up then. Popular pick on the British Empire at the moment. When's that gonna stop? Speaking of which, I need to finish watching that. What's that Churchill movie called? The Finest Hour, I think, or whatever. I started watching it. I like what's his name. I like Gary Oldman, but I think they could have picked somebody that looked like him a little bit more. Maybe not. He just wasn't very Churchill-y. I watched maybe 30 minutes of it. I was watching it with my daughter, and it was a bit too boring for her. So, I know. Do people watch that and go, man, that guy was an evil man? Oh, man. I do think it's a bit silly that we have a U.S. destroyer named after him. That's kind of ridiculous and inappropriate. And that's not to, downplay him at all. I'm just saying it just doesn't seem, it doesn't seem right. Like, what do we do? Run out of names? All right. So these guys are drying. We are going to move them off the screen. And we'll be right back at a jiffy, folks. Stick around. I love it. I leave and there's more viewers now than when I left. Oh, welcome back. G'day, gents. Road to Valhalla had some long arse games. They did. I enjoyed it, but I had to watch it in two strings. I felt sorry for Bob, Tony. You mean Don. He was making that shit up because he didn't want his name. You felt sorry for Bob because you were rolling with the gods on your side. I was unstoppable. But you know what? He liked to run his mouth about how he was going to come back. He's been in hiding for 2 years since the pandemic started. And he doesn't live far away. He lives maybe an hour and 15 minutes away. And he was coming about once a month. And he's been in hiding since the pandemic started. And he just came back and he was running his mouth about he was going to whoop my ass and everything. And I'm like, there's a die roll thing. And I guess he shouldn't have run his mouth. But I rolled incredibly well. I think I'm pretty good about that. I'm good about saying, hey, I did roll like a fiend. And growing up, that was one of my biggest gripes with people is they wouldn't admit when the dice were just on their side. They'd always complain about how the dice were against you, but when you rolled well, they wouldn't admit it. And I think that's just, that's a character flaw. You need to be consistent. Sometimes dice are on fire and sometimes they're not. So. There's no point in switching dice. I mean, yes, there's some dice that are broken. Those are called cheating dice. But not those. Oh, we got to do something. We have to do something. Welcome. Welcome, David Cross. Thank you for subscribing. I don't know if you're on here or whatever, but if you do subscribe, let me know why you subscribed. And hopefully the reason isn't because you like Mitch's feet. Okay, so these are Byzantines. We need to zoom out a little bit more. Oh shit, I can't do that yet. I got to do this first. Bear with me just one moment. We need to go. This is going to take a little bit of finagling. Let's add this. Let's add this. I am not a big planner, so I should have had this up. Oh, wow. We need to... Excellent. So we need to go here. This thing is so unfriendly to use. That's Pinterest. So unfriendly to use. Now we should be able to go here and do this, do this. Oh. Cancel. Let's try this again. This. Image. Add source. Okay, good. Good. Almost there. Almost there. Almost there. Now we take this image and we hide it, and we take this one and we move it down into the corner and make it smaller. And now we get out of it so we don't tinker with it. All right, because we're working on Byzantines. And that's the Byzantine flag that I was talking about in the corner that's not very illustrious looking. Well, some of you may like it, but I think it looks kind of with all the cool, iconic stuff that you could do with the Byzantines, with the Madonna and Child or the emperors and stuff like that. You know, having something that has just colors is kind of stupid in my opinion. But hey, you got to do what they use, you know? So, all right. Oh, great, it was open. Let's get high. Getting high with Tony. Yeah. And this is what it involves, just a taller camera. I'm not one of the cool kids. I don't do none of that other stuff. Never have. Okay, we got some Bowman here. We got a big bag of stuff. And then we've got other stuff that we also need to pull out. Mounting figures. Anything else in here? Yep. These are the old gory guys I got the other day. Anything else in here? No? No? No. Alright, let's look at the army list. We're going to need this handy. I think that will cover it. All right. I did clean up my desk the other day, so we're ready to roll. Okay, Book 4-1, Komnenin Byzantine. We're going to do the A and the B, and then when we're done with that, we're going to build a few extra elements and do the Constantinian list that's in book 3. I believe it's 375. I could be wrong on that. It's in there. You guys can check it out which one it is. Okay. So the heavy cavalry is going to do the double duty on this. The heavy cavalry is going to be cavalry in the A list and knights in the B list, but they're going to look the same. I'm not going to make 2 separate figures for that. Okay. All right. So they have some common denominators to this stuff. So let's take these old glory figures and move them out of the way, okay? Because what I'm doing next is not going to be in here. Now, let's see. Do I need to put something that these guys are going to stay in? I wonder if I've got a container I'm not using. I bet I could find one. Because I'm going to need to sort this stuff. Oh, I know exactly where I'm going to find one. And I have plenty of them for this purpose. Tackle box type thing. And I'm not really using it. This is the old container I used to transport my figures in. This is the Mark I transport container as opposed to the baking pans I use now. So from day one, I used magnetic stands, but I like putting the magnetic bases on them. So if something's made of steel, they fit in there nicely. Well, the problem when you carry them in something plastic like this is that they won't stick to it. So Litco also makes what they call sheet steel. And this is it looks just like a magnet. It feels just like a magnet. But guys can stick to it because it's impregnated with magnetic properties or whatever. So I don't use this anymore because it doesn't hold as much. It doesn't hold the figures as well as an actual metal tray does. So what I've done is I used to cut these in strips and then the figures would ride in here on I've taken them on flights and stuff like that, but they move a lot less in a metal pan. And so I have this extra material that I actually use this. I've cut it into pieces, and there's a couple of stands that I have done, put them together to make one unit, like on the Bowman, for my mounted Bowman for my Burgundians. So I have a use for this stuff. It's just not right now for this. So we're going to go ahead and put some dividers in here. And this is where we're going to pre-sort some of the figures here. Actually, these need to be here. So that when I figure out who I'm going to use for what, they're not jumbled in this big pile. Because we're going to be working on these guys for a while. Okay, so now we've got some dividing areas to put different stuff into. Okay? Cover your hills with that stuff. What, and put it underneath the layer? That's going to be weird. I don't know. I've got enough projects to do. I know what you're talking about. That seems like... And I can't use my commercial hills out. They don't have that. Mitch decided to buy the Stickum stuff, or whatever that's called, the post-it, and that seems to make a big difference. Yeah, I don't need to create even more things. I can't use any of the terrain that I have then. Or Scott can buy us flat terrain. Now, flat terrain's gonna suck looking like it. Okay, so let's pick out the most obvious stuff. And we're gonna sort all the figures that we're gonna use for this army, which is one of the most exciting things as far as I'm concerned. I love doing this particular part of the process. Okay, let's lose the glasses so I can see what I'm doing. All right. First thing I'm going to do is let's grab the Varangian Guard. That's a standard blade. There's only 4 of them that I have. And they're made by, I don't know why these guys are in here. These are Cataphractos. They're not on in this time period. They didn't use them anymore. It's a little earlier. Here's some Bowman. But we're going to use these guys. These are tabletop guys, and we're actually going to use these guys for the early Byzantines when we do them. So I'm actually going to sort these guys out of the box. And here's some Saloy as well. We're going to sort them as well. We are going to do early Byzantines also. Belisarius and company. All right. These are the command figures that, no, this is something different. We'll get to that. We don't need that bag right now. We don't need this bag right now. Oh, hold on one second. All right. Don't know what the hell I was saying. These are all the Elaine Touler figures. And I believe these are mounted figures. So we'll get to them in a moment. Let's do the unmounted figures first. Oh, let's not put this stuff where we're going to damage the freaking poles. All right, let's take a look and see what we've got here. Because this is the one that the knights are in. or the cavalry, the heavy cavalry. All right, so let's sort what we have here. We got a spearman, but these are the earlier oval shields. So what I'm going to use these guys for is there is an 8 bow stand that is in the Constantinian list. And these are going to be the front guys on the Constantinian list of that stand. Or I may put the bowman in the front with these guys behind it. So these are going to go to the Constantinian. And I'm going to replace these spears because they are super McBendy. They're not going to last very long. These figures are an old alloy, old style alloy with lots of lead in it. So these are the Constantinian spearmen. We're going to move them off to the side, and we'll probably put them in one of the little containers. When I find out what bows are going to go with them, then they'll hang out together. Okay, so Varangian Guard, these guys are all axemen. I believe I have exactly 4. Here's the other guy, whose axe is about to frickin' break. It's not a good sign. And I don't have another figure. I could put a command figure in there. To be continued. These guys are pretty stable. This one guy's got an axe that's about to break. And they all have round shields. Okay, so maybe to be continued. I'll move them off to the side. That's the 4 guys. All right, we've got a guy with a bow on foot, a guy with a bow on foot. These guys are fully bearded. This guy's particularly bearded. Here. Here. I think there's only 4. Okay. So these guys could be the ones that go with these spearmen. To be continued. All right, what else is in here? There's some light horse. There's some light horse of different flavors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 horse figures. 9. Well, that makes no sense. Okay, so who's in the horse figure land? Well, we got some half figures. We got a guy with a javelin. Another guy with a javelin. So 2 of those. And those javelins will probably last fine. I don't have to replace them. Okay. And then a guy with a sword. Nope, another guy with a javelin. 3 javelin guys. Okay. And then we've got 1, 2, 3. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 half figures. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 bottoms. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tops. Now, these normally would be light horse. I can tell from here that this is a cavalry figure. And the reason I can tell that is this is a helmet that is typical of the period, and it has kind of a little tuft back here in the back. All right. So there's 2 of those, 3 of those, 4 of those. So I'm probably going to take these guys and mix them in with the cavalry. And these guys are wearing a mail shirt. So let's see what kind of bottoms we have that would go with those guys. And I'm probably going to have to compare them to the cavalry figures. Because light horse-wise, I don't think I need more than 3. Let's see. The B list can have 3 light horse. And they can have another one to replace the Varangian Guard. So they could have 4. Okay, and their Vardaratorai do what? Okay, let's See if it explains who Vardara Torai are here, or I have to go to either DBMM or something else. Vardara Torai were a new guards unit first attested in 1160 and possibly originally recruited from Magyar settlers in the Vardar Valley. Okay, well these guys are definitely going. And here's another one. And here's another one. So what I'm going to do is these guys are all armored. I got to figure out what bottoms go with these guys. Two of these guys, I'll make another optional light horse unit with two of these guys. I don't need them for the cavalry. I'll make another light horse unit with two of these guys, and that could be the ones that I use when I need four of them total. But I don't know who's what with the bottoms. So we're just going to move. We're going to move these. Let's move all of these figures. I'm going to leave the bottoms. I haven't decided who's what. We're not starting off painting light horse anyways. We start off painting foot. Let's just put this. We can't do anything with this yet. I want the right bottoms to match the people, and they're almost the same, so can't move forward with that. All right, and here's the light horse for them as well. All right. You have a unit of spearmen. The only spearmen that these guys came with were these units over here that we're going to use for the Constantinians because they have the wrong size shields. So I got Old Glory guys with almond shields. Let's take a look at these guys. I think this is all of them. I didn't pre-sort them, did I? No. Okay, so let's look at the different spear varieties. Okay, we got a guys with the teardrop or almond shaped shields. This one's a little different. Well, it's the same as that guy, but there's a couple different varieties in here. This kind of has a hard rim, and this one doesn't really have much of one. So let's see what we have. We got guys that have the kite type shields. We won't be using any of those guys in this army. So let's just take those guys right out of the mix and see who's left. This is the same pose. This is slightly different pose and slightly different shield. I don't know if that's a miscast or the bottom of it is definitely rounded down. Okay. Here. And here, there, and there. And this guy's this one. This guy is that one. This guy is that one. And then this guy is one of these. Now, these spears, I want to replace them because, well, maybe I won't. Maybe I won't because they're if you look at it on this perspective, they look like they're the right dimensions. But if you turn them 90 degrees, they're flat. It's almost like they're carrying flat bar. And unfortunately, Old Glory stuff is like that sometimes. And it bothers me a little bit. It's not huge. These guys are pretty stable, so I'm probably going to leave them how they are. I'm probably going to leave them how they are. So this is kind of a unique figure, and he's got big cheekbones, so he's not going to make the cut. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's a miscast unless every single one of them was miscast, because every single one of these has a bottom that's rounded off. I don't particularly like that. I don't like the guy with the big cheekbones, so the question is, do I want these guys or these guys as the spearmen in the army? This has kind of a weird pattern. I don't know if you can make that out, but it's got kind of like little rivets but they're not in a cruciform pattern or anything like that. So I'm going to go with these 4. Okay, so these are my spearmen. They only have 1 unit of spearmen. That's who they're going to be. And they're similar in size to the Varangian Guard guys. Okay, so here's the spearmen. I want them to do the same pose. All right. Light horse, we need to go do more detail with. Archers, we have archers that we need to do. I don't have a 3 ox for Slavs or Vlachs, but honestly, if I have to give up a solid blade or a solid spear to get an ox, I wouldn't do it anyways. All right, we can take the spearmen. I'll put them in one of the. It's likely the spearmen are going to be the first unit painted. Just a disclaimer there. Okay, Varangians. So, there's a command pack here. Let's go ahead and take these spears I did not use, and let's put them in a little bag. And let's get them out of here. Because there's a command pack. So there's some commanders that are on foot that I bet one of them I can use to replace this one Varangian that has the axe that's about to go. Because the last thing you want to do is spend all this effort, paint these guys, and then you lose an axe. And you haven't even played a battle with them. Okay? So let's look at this command pack. Let's see what the hell's in here. And we've already pulled the commanders. Well, it's somewhere. Here. Here's the guys that are the commanders of the command post that's going to go in the Constantinian list. Okay, I'm not going to go over exactly what's in here, but there's a mounted commander and foot. Now, it's with Varangian escort, and I read in there that it wasn't until, I want to say it's 1081, that the Varangians started using axes. They basically were spearmen. So I specifically, because this list is earlier than 1081, I used spearmen for them, and I went ahead and used the round shields. So that's the tie-in. The Varangians are going to be the only ones that have round shields. So that's all together. That's the command post for the Constantinian list. All right, so let's look at the other commanders that we have here in here. So what I particularly want to look at is, are there any guys with round shields that could fit in with these Varangians? And I bet there aren't any. Okay? We got these mace guys. You know how I feel about maces. Kind of lame. Okay? So I don't think I want a mace guy in all the axemen, okay? Because it is a blade, so it's not the end of the world if I have to use that, but I don't have to use that. So what am I left with? A guy blowing the horn? I'd rather have a guy with a banner, so they're not going to be elected for that position. And then do we have a banner guy who has the 3-form flag, or one that has the banner? I don't think I want that. I think I want one of these guys to replace it. So they're comparable size-wise. I just don't want to use this guy. It's a cool pose, but this axe is about to go. We don't need to have that problem. So I'm going to have one guy that has a teardrop-shaped shield, and he's the one that has the flag in the Varangian unit. But I have seen... So the Varangian tie-in is all the guys are going to have... The main motif is going to be a red shield with some kind of a design with a black emblem of something, whether it's an eagle or a crow or something like that. And I've seen teardrop-shaped shields for the Varangians also to have that. So that's what this is going to be. So these are the 4 guys that are going to be on on that stand. Okay, so we'll take them and we'll put them in a box. This is going to be the Varangians. I'm going to go ahead and put this Axeman that's about to go anyways in the same box. All right, that's the Varangians sorted. All right, let's move these command guys off to the side. All right, what the hell's in this box? Bunch of odds and ends here. Actually, we could probably do this. No, not that, not that, not that, not that. One of these is, oh, it's down here. Here you go. All right, let's take this. Oh, it's locked. Let me move my ass on up here. Let's move this down here. Okay, I think that might be a little bit better. Okay. What the hell's in this box? What's in this bag? This is the command pack from Gladiator Games. A couple Turcopoles, looks like. A couple Cataphractoi. Oh, this is the guy that I was going to use as the banner guy, but they're significantly bigger. They're significantly, where's an Old Glory guy? They're significantly bigger than them. So I don't know if I'm going to have him with the Emperor. And they're kind of crude. He does have a round shield. And a guy with a sword. And a guy blowing. All right, let's take all these guys, and we're going to add them to this command post. For options later. This guy's kind of cool. He's so much bigger than the other figures. He's so much bigger than the other commander. Well, maybe he's not. Does he have an integral? Yeah, I just don't want to use this ugly ass, candy ass horse he's here. I'd like to use one that has maybe a little bit more. He's not bad. He's not bad. These Turcopoles, they aren't going to work for the time being. Besides, I believe Turcopoles are not a light horse stand, they're a cav stand. How does he look on a 2-layer horse that is completely barded? Does he fit okay? No. I'm going to modify the living shit out of him. No, he doesn't have a great face. It's kind of squish looking. Maybe we'll just set him off to the side. Let's not plan on using him because we have lots of cool commanders anyways. Where's the bag of things that aren't going to be used right now? Here it is. I don't know if you guys are enjoying this. This is one of my favorite things to do. I really enjoy doing this. Okay. Knight's or cavalry. These are black hat guys. And I think they're actually okay. They're actually okay looking figures. They are a little bit on the not even. They're not that different. Not that different. Are they all the same pose? So far, so good. Actually, the face looks kind of cool. They're all the same pose. So my cavalry, oh, they actually have different horses in here. Interesting. I thought they'd all be the same horse. Yeah, it's actually decent, all decent looking horses. All decent looking horses. All right, let's just sit these guys off to the side here, because we're about to pull a shitload of knights out here. Or heavy cavalry. Let's call them heavy cavalry, because that's really what they are. So we've got 5 of these guys from Black Hat Miniatures, or Gladiator. So it used to be Gladiator, there were Black Hat Miniatures that were formerly Gladiator, and now they're Gladiator miniatures carried by Fighting 15s that are formerly Black Hat, that were formerly Gladiator. You got all that? There'll be a quiz later on after the show. Okay, these are Elaine Toulaire horsemen. Now, these horses are more minuscule looking than these, so I honestly like these horses a lot better. And they should fit on there just fine. Okay. These horses definitely look like winners. Okay. There's a horse, there's a horse, there's another one. One that's completely barded. We'll put him over in the command one. Another horse. Another horse. Another horse. Another horse. All right. We have a commander who looks okay, but he looks extremely lame when you can have a guy that looks like this. I'd much rather have this pose. They're almost in the exact same size. I don't mind things being a little bit, they don't have to be perfectly the same size. So I am a big fan of mixing manufacturers. Okay. Here's a separate flag by itself that is damn near useless because it's too small. Okay. So we have a mounted figure. We got these guys with the round shields. We're not going to use these guys in this army. Let's put them off to the side. Another guy off to the side. I'm not going to use the commander. What do we got left here? We got a mounted figure. We got a mounted figure. We got a mounted figure. These are all the same pose. So, oh, here's the guy that holds the banner. We may use him. He may be a useful banner guy. Here's another one. Here's another one. Here's another one. So they're all the same pose. So the cavalry, which I believe there's 4 of them in the army. Let's see. The B list has 2. Wow. Not including the general. The B list has 2. The A list has 2 mandatory and potentially 2 more that take the place of light horse, which I'm probably going to use generally. Okay, so that's 4. What about the Constantinian list? What number did I say they were? There's 76. Okay. They have 4. Oh, and the last thing is they can have another one instead of an artillery piece. So basically I'm going to build 4 of these guys. So I need 12 figures. They're going to be in units. Okay, so everyone that has, they don't have to be the same figure on the stand, but their shield will have the same pattern on them. Okay, so if I have a stand that has this guy in particular, and we're gonna replace the lances on these guys for sure, no doubt about it. These are super bendy. And say this guy's hanging out with them, then they'll have both the same pattern of the shield. Now, as you can tell, this is kind of a rounded one, and this one has a rim. So they're not going to look right together if I put them together. Now let's pull the Old Glory guys out here. What's that? Got a comment. Yep, while you're doing this, I'm doing the same with my Legio Heroica Later Crusader 17s. Legio Heroica figures are beautiful. Enjoy watching your decision-making process. Tend to buy my armies in an army pack or individual listings at the same time. I love my decision-making process. I think it's cool. It's cool. Here's the other knights. Let's get the commanders. Let's move them. No, I just don't want to have to resort them if I don't have to. Okay, and there's only 9 figures in here. Okay? So we've got We'll just go back to calling them Gladiator because they are Gladiator again. Gladiator, Elaine Tulare, and Old Glory. Now, the jury is still out, or I haven't had enough. These all have half-armored fronts on these horses. And the jury is still out on whether or not that was still used during this time period by the Byzantines. So on one hand, if I want them to look more cavalry-like, I probably don't want to use them. And let me move this out. There we go. It would have been easier just to do this. Okay. If I want them to look more cavalry-like, then I probably don't want to use them. But if I want them to be more knight-like, then I probably would. Just a perspective. Now, they're nice horses. They got some tassels back here. They're Old Glory horses, which tend to be on the large size, but these are smaller than, I particularly like this pose. That's a nice pose. I don't particularly like this puffy chest, uppity horse pose. I don't particularly like that one. Is it the same as that one? Yeah, okay. So I don't know if I'm going to use these horses. I've got lots of horses to choose from, not even counting the ones I can pull from other manufacturers. I've got a ton of Old Glory figures. So let's look at what we have here in the heavy cavalry department for riders. We have this, and this is an awesome pose. He definitely looks Byzantine. This is a cool pose. Okay. This guy's looking in a different direction. This guy has a broken spear, dumb bastard. Broken lance. These guys use a 12-foot lance. Okay, so if I replace them with a spear, with a lance, it's probably going to be a little bit longer than these that they're already carrying. A little bit. Okay, this guy is looking in a different direction. This guy's looking in that same direction. So is he. This guy is the same as this one, and this one is the same as this one. Okay, but they all have the same shield with a rim on it. Now, let's compare shields with the rims of the two figure manufacturers that have. I can totally use these guys in the same, intermix them completely. Now, these are all the same pose. I have to take a look at what we got here. Get a little closer. Look at the shield similarities. Totally usable. So I could totally intermix these guys. I could intermix them all, but for some kind of, I don't have a problem with guys being a different size, but shields are kind of shields, you know? So I don't really want to get crazy with the, well, you know, this shield ate more porridge. It doesn't really work that way, right? It works for people. Some people eat more or whatever, different sizes, but the shields, I want them to stay kind of consistent. So these guys are definitely totally mixable. So right off the bat, I'm thinking I'm not going to use these guys at all because they have a different type shield, unless I put them in their own unit, and then it's three guys that look exactly the same. And the Old Glory guys are particularly cool because not only do they have different poses, but they have different kind of armors. Like, for instance, this guy's got banded. He's got banded type armor on his chest. And these guys have chainmail. And these guys have like a leather type armor. So that's pretty cool. All right. But I'm not making knights and cavalry. That's just dumb. Even though I probably have enough figures to do both. They're gonna do double duty because they're only knights in the B list. Okay, so right off the bat, what did we say? We needed 4. We needed 4 stands that weren't the commander. So that's 12 figures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Talk about perfect. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Take this guy out. 6. So now I can have 1. Yeah, I got 6 of this stand, 6 of these guys. I want to use all the Elaine 2 layers that I can. Why not? Okay, we got 6 of these, 2 of this pose, 2 of this pose, 2 of this pose. Okay, the command stand. So that's settled. And I'm going to have to replace the lances here. I'm going to replace the lances on all of them. Just so they're consistent looking. I'm thinking. These are pretty solid. Maybe I won't do that. Maybe I'll just replace the lances on these guys. Let's just do that. Okay, so that's determined. Horse-wise, I don't think I want to use the half-armored horses for these guys because these guys scream 90s. 90s? Bring me my 90. Which means I can use these horses, the Elaine 2-layer horses. Let's, who's this guy? The banner bearer dude? We can use him. And where's my awesome looking commander? Not the mace guy. Okay. Here's the commander on the command stand. I can use a guy that's already carrying a command, but that's just too damn small a flag. I mean, they need a bigger freaking flag. Okay. What do I have flag-wise, choice-wise? Yeah. Mounted. Only those 2? Only those 2. No, there's another mounted guy. Thought there was. Well, we could turn this guy into him. Already has a broken lance, and he's a different pose that nobody has. But he has some bug-ass eyes. Look at this guy's face. Looks like he's just seen a ghost. He's definitely on there. Could use a guy with a little flag and a guy with a big flag. I don't think I'm going to do that. Let's see what somebody has to say here. Da, 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 da. Good morning. There he is. Le Joe. I thought there was a second flag bearer. I guess there wasn't. Oh, he's here. What a moron. I don't know. He looks pretty cool. It's almost like he doesn't even need one. The thing is, I don't want to do a big flag and a little one on the same stand because I like one of the guys at least being a standard knight-looking guy. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to not use either one of these 2. We're going to use this guy as the flag bearer. Ooh, he's got a cape. Do all these guys have capes? No. Yes, I would expect him to have it. No. Okay, what about these guys that have the banners? The banners also have capes. Okay, so obviously the guy who's carrying the banner needs to be a cape guy. And we'll use this guy's. I really like this pose. Oh, I could use one of these fellows. He'd be different. Oh man, decisions. Decisions. I don't know. I don't know. Well, I'll tell you what. It's going to be either him or it's going to be him. And I don't have to make that decision right now. And I'm not using this shitty little flag, okay? It doesn't have to be any of these guys right now. I don't have to decide that. So I'm going to put all these guys together. That's definitely going to be the command group. Now, horse-wise, there is one horse that's fully armored. And that's going to be for the general. the general's going to go be on the fully armored horse. Because I read somewhere that that was a thing. Okay. Now I don't have enough. Half armored horses to do all these guys. I need 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I need 12 of them, and I only have 9 here. Besides, how would these guys fit on here? Man, that would be pretty cool. Because these are nice. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We know we're going to use these figures. I don't have any for that. We know we're going to use these figures. We just don't know what we're going to do with the horses. Oh, here's another half armored horse. Because they came out of the command pack. Here's another half armored horse. Okay, that's different. Now we're up to 11. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Man, if I had one more, if I had just one more horse, I'd just say screw it and just give them all those. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't have to make that decision right now. So we know these figures are a go. Okay? We know these horses could potentially be a go. And these horses, and particularly these, I really like this horse pose. Would they work with this guy? And it's interesting because they have a built-in saddle. Okay? And this guy also comes with a saddle on it. So I'd just be covering a saddle with a saddle. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take all these guys, because they're definitely a go. These horses may be a go. These horses may be a go. And these horses may be a go. So we're going to put all these horses, it's all the horse options we have. All these other losers aren't going to go. Okay, and I'm going to put all this in one bag. We're not starting with that anyways. I love this process. I love this. And I think I'm pretty good at it. And I enjoy doing this part online. Okay. Let's put the commander and his entourage in here. Inside the knight's bag, since he is knights, heavy cavalry, whatever. Heavy cavalry is what I should be calling them. Okay. And that's a to be painted bag. All the rest of these losers, I'll put them in a big thing. All right, that takes care of the heavy cavalry. The A list has a lieutenant con, which is a knight stand. I'm not gonna go mess with the Normans. I've got Normans out of my ass. You've got plenty of them for that. All right, we have Varangian Guard. We have the archers and the Saloy to be taken care of in the A list. In the B list, archers and Saloy. Okay, so we need, let's pull them out. Oh, left that flag out. Flags for the losers. Okay, I don't think I'm going to use these bowmen over here. I think we're going to keep them for the 8 bow. We'll take a look at that in a second, so we can determine what exactly we're going to do. Let's look at these bowmen. we're going to paint the spearman first, just so you know. The stand of spearman will be the first unit painted. And then probably the Varangian Guard. And then probably the bowman and the bowman and the Saloy. Okay. Different poses here. It should be 24 guys. That's why I hate this pose. He's just stupid looking. Doesn't mean I'm not going to use him. He's just stupid looking. All right. Bow. Stupid looking bow. Okay, another guy shooting. Stupid looking guy. He has a stupid face is what it is. So here's the interesting thing. Let's see if I can get this closer. Old Glory has, and it almost seems like they have a couple of different sculptors, but I think this is all the same sculptor. Let me see. I need to unbrighten this a little bit. Exposure offset. Okay. That should be a little bit better. All right. Look at his face. You know, he has a face that looks like a bulldog. And then look at this face. I didn't make that out. It's a very normal looking face. So, I don't like this bulldog, eyes bulged out, big cheekbone face. Doesn't mean I'm not going to use them. It just, that's not my preference. So, ugly bulldog mother. Okay, this guy here. These guys are, again, a bulldog type face. Okay, here. Here's another shooter. Here's another shooter. Here's another shooter. This is this pose. These are all the same. This is the same. This is the same. Okay. So I got to use these figures for the Saloy and the fast bow and the solid bow. I actually have enough to build fast and the solid bow. I've never done that before. I have never built both. And I have rarely done a solid bow when I can do a fast one. So here's the point where I'm going to go grab. All right, what's the earlier list? Does the earlier list have fast bows? If it does, what are the bow in the earlier list? They don't have any. They don't have any bow operating by themselves. They have an 8 bow. Okay? I gotta go to the little boy's room, unfortunately. So, we'll be right back in a jiffy. Okay. All right, we're back. So, stupid poses. So let's take a look at the DBMM book and see what the reasoning is for using one over the other. Because I'd rather make my decisions based on that than, oh well, the gamey aspect of I want to use fast bow because they can surround things. So let's look at book one. And see what it says here. Archers, up to a quarter regular bow ordinary, remainder regular bow inferior. So, based on that, they shouldn't both be solid bow. They can both be fast, or it could be one each. It's technically only up to a quarter. So they almost should both be fast bow. The solid bow is going to get a +1 versus if they are in side contact with the blade unit only. And there's only one blade element, so it's not particularly useful. I think I'm going to make them both fast. I'm going to make them both fast. That's how I make my decisions. Okay? And how many Soloi do I have maximum need? The A list, 1. And the B list, 1. Well, that's easy. Okay, what about Constantinian? One. There's only one stand of Soloi. Okay. Well, the Soloi is going to have these. The Soloi is going to have this bulldog looking dude and this bulldog looking dude. There's the Soloi stand. These two ugly ducklings will be in it. So just like, don't touch the little camel. This is going to be like, don't get shot by the bulldog boy. Don't get bit by the bulldog. The Soloi. Okay, there's the Soloi stand. Okay. And we're going to mix and match these. Now, how many is there total? Because if I wanted to do the solid bow and the fast bow, that would be 8 figures for the solid, and it'd be 14 figures total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. No, I'd have to mix up some sorry guys in there. So it's 3, right? So I'm going to paint 3 of these guys and 3 of these guys. And I'm going to mix and match. So one stand will have 2 of this one, and 1 of this one, and the other one will have 2 of this one and 1 of him. Okay? That's how we make decisions around here. We better put them in a sealed bag before these guys fly all over the place. And if decide at a later date to build the 4 bows, I have the figures for them. Now we're going to put these 2 Soloi in their own little compartment, and put these 6 in their own little compartment. What's left? The mystery of the light horse. Okay, these Constantinian guys, they're going to go in their own box. Okay, the mystery of the light horse. Okay, to do that, I need to get the heavy cavalry out. And not only that, I need to get the heavy cavalry that is specifically the Elaine Tulare heavy cavalry. Just one of the figures is enough. They're all the same. So I want to know, because we're looking at leg bottoms, which leg bottoms match him? Because whichever ones those are, that's going to be the guys that are shooting those bows. As we've got two. Let's get these light horse out of the way. Those aren't in question. Bowman. We have two guys with caps. Three guys with caps. And then four helmeted guys. Now the helmeted guys have chainmail like him. This guy has poofy type pants. Okay, what do we have left on the bottoms here? And a shirt that kind of goes over it, and a bow thing off to the side here. So this looks like it matches him. Is this the same? No, this one's different. Okay, this one does not have, this has the bow thing at a different angle. That matches that one. This matches this one. This matches this one. This matches this one. This is interesting. And this matches that one. Well, there's only three with this. And there's three guys that look like that. So they are obviously ones. 1 second. Okay, daughter wanted to show me a new hat that she got. Okay, so these three go with that. So that's decided there. And now two of these guys go here with two of these. So I need to put these guys in a little bag, because I don't want to have to go through that again. Okay. And then these guys can be loose in here. And we have a small child running. I wonder if we'll work that into something. To be determined. Heavy cavalry goes in the heavy cavalry bag. Make sure I put it in the right one. Yep. Okay. And all of this light horse can be... Audio shouldn't be out now. Yeah, I specifically turned it off when my daughter was interacting. This here, and these guys go here. And these are just extras, so we'll put them in that extra box. Okay, these are the figures that we're going to paint. So, as promised, we're doing the spearman first. This stuff out of the way. Extra bags, extra bags, extra bags. Don't need this. All right. We're going to need 3 coins. 4 coins. 3 coins. Psst. most 15 minutes. So let's see if we can glue these guys down. In that time. Yeah, we're not going to replace the spears on these guys, because then what I got to do is, I mean, if they were bendy, I would, but I've got to cut all this, I got to take all this material off, and then put the spear close to the chain mail so that it doesn't show, and it just, you know, we're going to leave that alone. I actually have a set of files, but the X-Acto works better than anything else. The files aren't small enough. Not much flash on this guy. Okay, he's done. Flash down here. We can make the decisions on what the horses are going to look like when we come down to that. Because it's not that critical. I don't need to spend time cogitating. That's the last stuff that gets painted anyways. If you have trouble deciding what you're going to do, put it off. Go do something else that may make you help make the decision. Now, designs on these spearmen, I've seen everything from elaborate to just dark red. And if they were mounted figures, I would definitely go towards the elaborate direction. But they're foot figures, so there's a chance I might not do them very interesting looking. And that's on purpose. Because these are low rank guys that are just mass recruitment. All right. Yeah, we're getting to be in the transom light 30. There we go. You could see the shine coming through there. Well, it's about time that I got to stop anyway, so not that big of a deal. Let's see, do we have glue on both sides? Yeah, kind of. Old Glory has really big bases, so that shouldn't be an issue. Geez, are there any left in here? One, a dollop, and a dollop. Okay. And we're not going to paint these guys black or anything. We can do that at a later time, because by the time I get back on to do this again, the basing on the poles will be done. That one's not going to work. Jeez. Fumbles. It was always fumbles. Okay. This is the 4 Spearman. Complete. And we will pick this up next time. So thanks for stopping by. Enjoy your Saturday, and we will see you soon. Oh, and by the way, check out a new video should be up shortly. One that got filmed